It's your boy, Ed the Dread, aka Eddie Money Mouth. And you are tuned in to the Money Mouth Podcast. Yes, you. Welcome everybody to Money Mouth Monday. Yeah. Today we will be talking about how a place like Israel can keep ethnically cleansing the Gaza Strip for like 5, 6 months, and none of these world powers give a shit about it. Whoa! Oh, I know, a deep one, right? But we're going to start it off just by talking about a little bit about myself and the information that I've gained on the history of where I grew up and even my ancestors, right? So, first and foremost, I was raised in Montgomery County, Maryland, in the 90s. Okay, a pretty affluent county where they gave a lot of tax revenue to the public schools. Okay, many of the politicians that do business in Northwest DC don't want to live in the city due to the fact that there's taxation without representation. So they move outside of the city into the suburbs, right? And I just so happen to grow up in the suburbs that are outside of that zone in DC, Northwest. So, with that said, my public education that I had growing up was pretty good. I came out with like a, I don't know, 3 point something GPA, graduated college with a 3.7 GPA. So I tried, right? And I would say that, I'm pretty well educated. Okay. And with that being said, right, I didn't understand fully what happened when Christopher Columbus showed up over in North America, right? Other than, the rhyme, Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, right? And the Nina da Pinta de Santa Maria. Okay. But when I was when I was a junior in college, I had transferred to Monmouth University and I was playing soccer there. I was taking maybe Spanish 1A college level or Spanish 2A, whichever. And my Spanish teacher, after finding out that I played on the soccer team of the school, he let our class in to know that he had grown up playing in the youth program for Real Madrid, right? Like this guy was just a Spanish teacher over at Monmouth University, but he grew up in Spain, and over there, like it's way bigger. And around the time when he was younger, he was part of their youth academy, right? And like he showed up to class one time with what looked like a passport sleeve, but it was actually like his player card and in his club. It's like his club passport, pretty much. So he showed us that, and then once we became more cordial in that respect, he literally started telling us all sorts of stuff that we didn't know. One of which was like 30 million people died of uh, disease and or just being killed by Columbus and his homies that showed up. Right. And so as a brown person in America going through as much shit as I went through, having half of my family be white and growing up in that zone where they grew up and they are from, and like, driving white relatives' cars and getting pulled over and or just being with white people and them not having any clue what's going on to our group due to the fact that I'm the only brown one, right? I didn't fully understand a lot of American history, right? So you think it's rhymes, you think it's cute little Nina Pinta Santa Marias. You don't understand that like millions and millions of people died, millions and millions of people were displaced, and that's in the hundreds of years after the first arrival. But the things that you think are true about those historical events are way different than what we're told. Uh, so it's generally the same when you come out here to Hawaii, right? When I moved out to Maui, I had no clue how Hawaii became a state, right? I have a great aunt who was in the Daughters of the American Revolution. She was pretty well versed and affluent as well. I think she worked at like the U.S. Mint. So she traveled back in the day and she came out to Hawaii and she actually brought a jacket, like a towel type jacket back uh, definitely handcrafted, something crazy. And my dad has it, and I've gotten the chance to wear it and begged him to pass it down to me and shit, but that's not happening. uh, but before moving here, I thought that, yeah, Hawaii became a state. Like, they were stoked. Like, you don't have any fucking clue what actually happened, right? You don't understand that this was a sovereign kingdom. You don't really understand that these people had their own, social structure, religion. They had millions of people flourishing here on these islands, and essentially the same shit happened. Like, boats of explorers showed up and found these people and fucking told their homies and brought them back and fucked it all up. But that's what I mean. The essence of what has gone on in all these places is stripped due to the telling of the history from the side that did all the atrocities. Right? You Like I said, you don't know when traveling down to La Perouse Bay that a Hihikinau is the name of it, and due to the fact that those people first stepped off those ships down there in that bay, uh, there's only like tens of thousands of Hawaiians left, and a lot of them are displaced and so far gone from their previous culture that it's fucking ridiculous, right? When I first moved here, again, I was blind to what had happened here, but also, regardless of who you are growing up here, you get blind to what has happened in America, right? My Hanai mom, Mom Lonnie Palmer, bless her, one of my favorite people ever on earth, let alone this island, right? She grew up here. She's, I would say, probably my parents' age. I believe she might have been one of the first births in Maui Memorial Hospital, like, back in the day type shit. Hasn't left, Maui for prolonged periods of time, and grew up here just being told what you're told at school here, right? So there was a point where I was explaining to her some racial shit that had happened to me in my life, like just growing up on the East Coast, and she was in shock, like, and I believe that her response was like, "Oh, I thought that was just in movies," and I was like, "No, no, no. What do you mean, like racism?" And she's just like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Oh shit, no!" Like, for a white person growing up here, being called haole and being maybe, picked on, beat up, fucking just being angry at your whole life by people is kind of a standard thing, but they've never seen like the systemic fucking holding down of people and police brutality and everything that goes along with freaking racism in America, right? She thought it was a movie, so uh grateful for her, and her being intrigued by it. She actually, ended up watching like Civil War documentaries and all this shit that kind of gives you a real perspective of what was going on, and why Civil War was being fought, who was on what side, how blacks were treated, and rolling on from there, it helped her realize kind of what perspective I have, coming from there to here, but also just the things that they may have not taught you out in school here, because you're generally learning Hawaiian history, right? I'm not gonna say that they don't teach you. They might teach you, but I'm sure that they do just as much Hawaiian history here as American history, and or maybe more. Um, so I'm not a history teacher, so I can't really speak on that, right? But I can tell you that kids out here in my class just drop the N word on me. They do. It's like they don't understand where all that stuff comes from, it's almost just a music video from a rap genre to them. You know, like wearing gang colors, dropping the N word, doing stuff like that is just popular now. It's not so much like anyone they know has been called that racially. There's not many black people out here on island, and the ones that there are, I mean, we aren't really like hood brothers. It's like a lot of us surf. Uh, we do all sorts of other things other than what holds people down in the gentrified ghettos of America, right? But from these kids' perspective, seeing what's mainstream and popularized by the music and the culture of blacks in America, which has kind of been predatorily marketed to us, it's understandable that they don't fully grasp, uh, how painful that word can be to a person like me, and or just the comparison of how African Americans were treated, how Native Americans were treated, and then how Hawaiians are treated out here, and just the simple fact that we're all being held down by the same oppressors, capitalist, American, European centric like mindset, um, but we've been pinned against each other and or just don't mesh and help each other grow because we're always in a perpetual like fight against each other for whatever ego, land, money, uh shit. Nowadays, just see who's more thugged out, right? But the reality of it comes down to something that Cat Williams has been expressing a lot recently, which is who holds the information, right? Like the more information you have, the better you're going to be able to make decisions for yourself, the better you're going to be able to have a life. The less that you know, the easier it is to keep people down, right? It's like we don't talk about finance in high school. We don't talk about, writing checks, banking, college loans, things like that, mortgages. Just how money works, how the world works, how things actually go, how credit works. We don't really learn that in school per se, and those are things that kind of run the capitalist society that we live in, right? So when it comes to the information that we're given, it's very important to one be aware of where it comes from, especially with the internet now, and having to check like y- your your information sources, right? You definitely don't want to look on Wikipedia and see something that like Ed the Dread picked up off of some website that he made. And put the info on Wikipedia. You want to see something that has like scholarly journals and actual, uh, bibliographical information that can tell you where it came from, right? So when we think about information and knowing history, it's no surprise that Thanksgiving is celebrated, although uh, it's the celebration of a massacre of like 12,000 natives in Connecticut. It's no surprise that the way that the United States was made by ethnically cleansing natives that were here, no one really knows about it, right? It's no surprise that the Trail of Tears isn't talked about. I mean, when you just look that up, it literally says the ethnic cleansing of Native Americans to make way for like European settlers to have 160 million acres of fucking land, and then like the homies were just killed off, right? It's no surprise. They planned it that way. It's easier. Okay, I had a discussion with some of my coworkers last week. These two guys are like some of my best friends out here. We work together, and we do other stuff together outside of work. So it's like that camaraderie is just heightened. But we were sitting at lunch and having a conversation, probably about politics or something like just that irks people during the day. But I recall, speaking about like America being great again or whatever, and these two brothers are Caucasian, and they're like, yo, well, America hasn't been great recently. Like the '80s or something was pretty great, and I'm just like, like America was great when, because like our forefathers that wrote the Declaration of Independence killed all the Native Americans, owned slaves, and owned their wives. Like literally the high school that I went to, Colonel Zadok Magruder, has been petitioned to change the high school name because Colonel Zadok was one of the largest slave owners at the time. So, like, my whole high school career, I didn't know. We just thought it was a dude that was there or whatever, you know. We're running around with the colonel on our back, winning titles, running our asses off at track meets, high jumping and shit for the slave owner, repping the slave owner's name just on your back. Like, it's like, but again, the information that you don't know that's been hidden from you is what keeps you from, thriving and or just realizing the cultural differences and or similarities and banding together to help have a more fruitful future. Right? So essentially, I'll have that bring me back to like how the fuck Israel could spend the last 5 months fucking carpet bombing tent communities, right? Leveling the infrastructure of a whole fucking country and still having our US tax dollars be fucking sent to them. It's because the US was made the exact same fucking way. The exact same way. And they did it 100 years ago here in Hawaii. They did it fucking 300 years ago in the whole continental United States. It's not a thing that we ain't done and ain't still doing. So why the fuck would the US go, oh yeah, we need a ceasefire? Of course that black lady is vetoing the shit. Looking like a dumbass up there. Just letting babies get slaughtered and putting her black ass hand up and going, yeah, we in the United States, we don't think that with a ceasefire, no veto. Like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Is you crazy? Do you not know your own history? Again, if you black in America, if you black, brown, native, if you something in America, it's going to be difficult, right? You might not know your own history. Like, literally, I could tell you what boats the white half of my family came over on. I'm related to Peter Stuyvesant, first mayor of New York City. All this shit, Daughters of the American Revolution. I can't tell you anything about the black half of my family. We from somewhere in Africa because we black. But that's about it. No ships, no nothing, no fucking, no nothing. So the information that's held, the way that the country is run, it's set up so that these things can keep being perpetuated, right? Super easy for you to send aid to a country that's slaughtering everyone, right? When you've done it already yourself. Killed all the natives, manifest destiny'd your ass all the way to the West Coast, put the Navy up at Iolani Palace and put the guns at the Queen and took Hawaii nay. Right? And now it's just more futuristic. Back then, it was Civil War type shit. Muskets, pop, one shot. Right? When they showed up here in Hawaii, there was not any metal. There was no weapons. There was no nothing. So they just brought guns and you fucking gave to them and everybody blasted each other. Right? But that's basically, that's basically it. How can our tax dollars keep going to that? Because they've already done it. Because our country was built on it. Period. So with that said, that's your Money Mouth podcast for Monday. This Monday, yes. If you like this freaking hoodie, get on over and support our sponsor, Good Vibes Gear. GoodVibesGear.com. It's a lifestyle, not any other style. Be positive and spread it through positive outlets like this podcast. I'm your host, Ed the Dread. Click like if you liked, share if you care, subscribe, because we need subscriptions. I see you at the top, baby, and I also see you next Monday. A hooey ho, Kako.